All right, starting with the recap. We do this every single Monday during the NFL season, a quick whip around. It seems to me it's only fitting that another huge NFL Sunday, and there were some things that were good, there were some things that were great, and there were some things that were not great at all. But a big day nonetheless. And it ends with a primetime showcase of one of the biggest superstars in the Shield. And of course, I'm talking about one Justin Tucker. Nobody should be surprised that Tucker stole the show from Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson last night, because there has never been anything more automatic than Justin Tucker in a big spot. What do we know about what's undefeated in the history of time? Father Time is undefeated, never beaten. Sex is undefeated, never beaten, never tied, never even trailed and around. Yeah, we'll add Justin Tucker in big spots to that as well. This dude is undefeated in big spots. Literally. This dude never misses. He doesn't just have the highest field goal percentage ever. He's now 17 for 17 in the final minute of regulation in his career. And the guy's hit 61 consecutive field goals in the fourth quarter and overtime. It's ridiculous. It's a joke. In other words, he's not just the best kicker ever. He is lapping the field. And so it was the least surprising ending ever when this dude came up with the game on the line and he smoked it right down the middle and he walked it right off. And absolutely gut-wrenching for the Bengals and their fans. But not to the Big Head and I, because we went Bengals +3. Just saying. Big Head had another big weekend. I had a big weekend. If you're not listening to that podcast, Jim Rome's Big Head Bets, you are missing out. Then again, back to Tucker for a minute, because nobody deserved it more. Of course, Tucker was the one who got that post-game interview on SNF, a.k.a. the one reserved for the biggest star in that game. I don't know whether he's trolling us or he's the most humble dude ever. The most humble, modest dude who ever lived. But I know this much. Those kicks do not kick themselves. They go in because the GOAT kicks them. So the kicking GOAT stole the show in prime time, while the QB GOAT needed his own set of rules to hang on for dear life against the so-called fail clowns.
Fail clowns.
I shouldn't even be doing that. You know, for the longest time, I thought that was the lamest gloss ever. Fail clowns. Like, we mocked that guy for years for coming on this show with that. But now it works? Now it's acceptable? Now I kind of like it? Anyway, for once, you were the ones, fail clowns, making that crazy comeback instead of the ones suffocating and gagging and dying right there on the field. The ATL, in the process of a shocking comeback on so many levels, and then the GOAT got bailed out by the Zebras. I hate focusing on the ref show. Hate that. To me, it's so lazy. It's so convenient. It's what people do when they've got nothing better to do and a microphone in front of their face. I hate that. But there's no way around this. The ref show screwed the Falcons. That is the worst call of the season by far. That is the worst roughing the passer call I've ever seen. That flat out is one of the worst calls ever in a pro football game. Just because Bacon 45 is geriatric and missing half of his face does not mean that you're not allowed to sack the dude, that you're not allowed to tackle the dude, that you're not allowed to touch the dude. There are no special in-the-pocket rules for human scarecrows playing quarterback. Like, I've always hated the phrase, why not just put flags on these guys? But why not? At least in the case of this guy. If this is how it's going to go, why not just put flags on that Kevin Bacon lookalike and a red jersey while you're at it? Because clearly you are not allowed to touch KB45. And even worse than the call itself was Boger's explanation for the call itself after the game. And I quote, "What I had was the defender grabbed the quarterback while he was still in the pocket and unnecessarily throwing him to the ground. End of quote.
Brutal.
Sir, what you just described is known as a sack. It's a sack. He didn't, quote, unnecessarily throw Bacon 45 to the ground. That's called doing his job. His job is to bring down the quarterback. There was nothing excessive about that. Even the dirty bird himself, Jamal Anderson, came out to flame the refs and Bacon 45. Jamal said, quote, "No player in the history of this league has benefited more from horrible calls from referees than Tom Brady. It began with the tuck. It continues today with the birds getting effed."
Lovely.
The birds did get effed. But then again, maybe the birds should not be trailing by 3 touchdowns in the first place. Maybe try not being down 21-0 next time. Although apparently doing so actually worked, because apparently doing so, you bored your opponent to death. Because after that game, Devin White came right out and said it. This is what happened. We lost interest. It was too easy because they were too bad. I'm not sure what's more disrespectful, the roughing the passer call or that comment. As always, my answer is yes.
Brutal.
So you want to talk about saying the quiet part out loud. As always with the fail clowns, it's add insult to injury and then add another insult. Now, there are some teams, Tampa Bay is not one of them, some teams that do know how to handle their business when they get a boot on somebody's throat, and especially when it happens early on. I'll tell you a team that does not get bored of beating the crap out of other teams. The Buffalo freaking Bills. Shout out to Rick in Buffalo.
So I say war to Rick and Buffalo.
Rick in Buffalo.
So I say war to Rick and Buffalo.
Yo, Mafia, how we living? How's the hangover? I know. Totally worth it. The only thing better than being a 2-touchdown favorite against Pittsburgh, and that never ever happens. The Steelers are never 2-touchdown dogs, but they are now. The only thing better than being a 2-touchdown favorite is curb stomping the Steelers by 5 touchdowns, and it could have been so much worse. That boat show could have been so much worse. That boat race, I should say. What a freaking beatdown. What a laser show. It took all of 64 seconds for Josh Allen to unleash a 98-yard bomb to Gabe Davis. That was basically the ball game right there. 1 minute in. Thanks for coming. Holy Batman. Holy Swiss cheese. 2 holy mackerels and a holy smokes in a single call. And that thud that the rest of us heard was the sound of Pittsburgh dropping to 1-4. That is the sound of pretty much the first rebuilding year there in decades. At least Kenny Pickett showed some fight. Like this dude literally went down swinging. Dude took them tiny hands and let them go. Yes, there is a tiny hands alarm. There shouldn't be, and I'm not mocking him, but there was so much made of the size of this guy's hands leading up to the draft. We had to come up with a tiny hands alarm. He let them tiny hands go. You see the Rook throw hands at Shaq Lawson? Like, I don't know whether that's the ballsiest thing I've ever seen or the dumbest thing I've ever seen, but at least there's one person on the Steelers that wants to fight. Even if most of the rest of them look like they're ready to go 1, 2, 3, Cancun, and call it a season. That said, it's not all bad in PA, right? I mean, damn, Philly fan. How does 5-0 feel this morning? Not only that, but the Phillies are in the divisional series. The Eagles are now 5-0, and Philly fan is eyeing up the nearest horse. Philly fan starving for a horse pie sando right about now. Because the Eagles are undefeated, which is a lot more than I can say for my dude, Kyler Murray's wardrobe. I mean, look good, play good, get paid good. You know, the whole Dion thing back in the day? And I'm going to get to Dion later on. My man Kyler, and I'm a Kyler guy, but my man wore an L. Literally, figuratively, the whole thing. He walked that L into the stadium yesterday. Everybody in that locker room had to know as soon as they saw that lime green bell-bottom suit that it was not going to be their day. It was not going to be a good day, and it was not a good day for the Cards. Thanks in large part, though, to Philly fan. Philly fans showed up in Phoenix and actually forced the Cardinals' offense into a silent count multiple times yesterday, just like they did when they came here to SoCal and they took over Rams' house. Just like most teams do when they come to Rams' house. Actually, that's what I meant. Niners did, Dallas did, everybody does. But per usual, Philly fan is just built differently. They are. And right now, they are fired the hell up. And nobody more so than Philly Eagle coach Nick Sirianni. He showed up to the postgame presser rocking a Mike Schmidt Phillies jersey. The very same Mike Schmidt, who was one of the greatest third basemen ever and was still booed by his own fans for years because, wait for it, you know, they wanted to make him better. Sirianni reps him and then shouts out his favorite horse pie housing fans after that big win on the road. This dude just said, I tried to thank every one of them. You'd still be there right now, coach. There were that many of them. No, check that. There were that many of us. Whether or not you want to adopt me or not, I've forced my way into the family. I'm like, Philly fan, I'm like the foster child that showed up at your door and would not leave. I am one of you. Hey, Dad. Hey, Uncle Philly fan. I am one of you. Whether you want me or not, I am now riding shotgun on this bandwagon. Now, I understand. I know how this normally goes, Philly fan. I really do. I've watched this from afar for a long time. I know how it goes. And now that I'm all in and I'm riding shoddy on this bandwagon, we are all liable to take this rig right off the cliff and die a horrific death after our whip bursts into flames and we are all burned to a crisp. I know this. I know how it typically goes for you. Or maybe, just maybe, that's not what's going to happen this year. Maybe, just maybe, we, notice the we, got a pretty stiff test. And we passed it. And we traveled to the desert and took over their house. I understand that we have a lot more football that is still to be played. But maybe, just maybe, this is one of the rare times that's all's well that ends well. And it ends with me joining you in the streets and smashing horse crap sandos and trying to shimmy up Crisco'd light poles.